Arguments against alien invasion in 6 mm BB. The ringing of a clock and then quiet music from the radio pushed me back from dreaming into full consciousness, ready for everything. The same as almost every day in the last few months, though I kind of regretted that day. Yesterday's drunken celebration of the kills had dragged on a bit, and I hadn't slept much. And fool that I am, I forgot to take an anti-ethanol pill before I dragged myself into bed. I debated with myself whether I should, maybe, please, sleep a bit longer, but then I remembered we were in the middle of an alien invasion. So I rolled out of the bed and started my daily workout. After the first push-up, I really regretted the forgotten pill, because my head felt like there were 3 units of Rangers fighting a running battle with an allied Spetsnaz unit, and both sides were using grenades and occasionally called in some air support. I admit I cheated a bit with the morning ritual, and I headed for a quick shower after about half of it. On the way, I switched the radio to Home Guard local news and turned the volume up extra loud so I could hear it in the bathroom. Nothing interesting. Just a list of casualties from yesterday, not many, just 5 dead. By that time, even the most hardcore pacifists had learned a lesson and supported a local, quickly reoriented military industry. Or they just bought some cheap shit from online stores made by our second best ally in the world, of course, until we beat the alien invasion. A short, quick, and then cold shower pushed the hangover away. It was still waiting for its chance to ambush me later, but I didn't mind. I had to go to work, and the journey was often the most interesting thing that happened to me all day. While the coffee cooled, I walked through the arsenal hanging on the walls, lying on the furniture, and, well, essentially everywhere in my apartment, more or less out of habit. It was mostly high-grade stuff, some of it I'd bought before the invasion, some I'd procured from the bonuses I was given as a Home Guard member, and, well, I admit it. About half of it was cheap bullshit bought online. I've always burned most of my money on armament and equipment, even before the invasion, and sometimes you might hit the jackpot with cheap shit. You never know if you were lucky enough to buy one of the 10 pieces on average that's actually good and comparable to higher quality stuff that costs 1 or 2 orders of magnitude more. I generally bought 1 piece, took it apart, and then, as I thought it might work, I ordered a dozen. Usually 2 or 3 pieces from the bunch were pretty good for my use. The rest that couldn't quickly fixed, I either kept for spare parts, resold to locals, or donated to government funds. The morning ritual ended almost as always. I took my favorites. A gas-powered local Chisetta pistol, a gas-powered Scorpion, the original of course, not the stupid modern remake, and my latest favorite, an electric AEG AK-107 with a simple red dot sight. And grenades, bags of ammo, a few gas canisters, and so on, all typical morning. Outside it was pretty nice spring morning, pleasantly warm. AK in hand, with a Scorpion on one hip, and Chisetta on the other, I slowly headed for the trolley bus. The kids were just setting off for school, walking in disciplined ranks, accompanied by a few parents. All of the parents were visibly carrying, and most of the kids had at least some cheap Chinese Nerf knockoff. The cop who was accompanying them was carrying a normal combat shotgun, though I guess with special ammo, and he was suspiciously scanning the sky. He waved at me. I gave him a quick salute and picked up the pace because I spotted an approaching bus. I pushed my way through the seniors going for a morning raid on supermarkets with discount flares in one hand, and neither canes or guns in the other, and took my usual spot on the back platform. While the electric vehicle moved through the streets of the city, I passed the time with my favorite hobby, judging the equipment of other commuters. Most of them had something, some visible, some hidden. And most of it was cheap bullshit, but once in a while I spotted something interesting. When there was a movement behind the windows and half the people inside froze in terror while the others pulled their guns, I noticed a beauty with a pearl handle, adorned with jewels, a steampunk-like pistol in the hand of a well-dressed young lady. I guess she was a manager or high-class secretary. It matched her earrings and handbag. Industry had quickly adjusted to demand and was producing overpriced fashion excesses for those who could afford them. But if the internals of the gas pistol, I was guessing here, but it would be a bit too small for a reasonably strong electric one, matched the quality of the brass exterior, it had to be a pretty decent piece. I just had to hope that its owner, a really nice lady I'd love to ask out to a firing range, wouldn't shoot her own eye out with it if something happened, or possibly inflict ocular trauma on one of our innocent, though usually heavily armed passengers. Anyway, bored as I'd been lately, I was seriously considering overcoming my shyness and asking her about the gun and fishing to see if I had a chance of asking her out. To the firing range, of course. But it was a false alarm. No eddies to rack up my kill radio. 5 minutes later, the trolley bus arrived at the terminus and people poured out. They let me go first. I'd love to think it was due to the natural respect they felt towards me personally, but it was mostly my fatigues, big automatic electric gun, home guard insignia, and a lot of stops on the shoulder marking my kills. It was possible some of them had seen me in the news, though my 5 minutes of fame from the start of the invasion had already faded. In a year, no one would remember me, one of the first protectors of the mankind. It's strange how adaptable people are. A year or two ago, when some of my fellow commuters noticed me in my fatigues and with a case that definitely didn't contain a musical instrument or fishing gear, I got weird, nervous stares from those who were not ignoring me just to be safe. Nowadays, only my work colleague and a mate from the Home Guard unit, who always carries a minigun, draws attention. I admit the rate of fire of that 6-barrel rotary monster is nice, but it costs so damn much just to squeeze the trigger, and lugging that heavy mud around is an insane workout. He's a lunatic. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Or maybe trust my psychologist from the times before, though I guess she might have rethought her diagnosis during the last few months. On the way, I met a few acquaintances from the Home Guard walking the streets and watching for targets. The morning was, however, suspiciously quiet. I was hoping for an offensive. If I had gone straight to work, it would have taken me only 5 minutes from the bus stop, but I preferred a slow advance through the side alleys of the former ghetto, because that was the place to get some kills. ETs didn't disappoint. One of my favorite hunting grounds near passage to an old house contained, once again, 2 hunter-killer spheres. If they had been a bit more patient, they might have had a chance if they had rushed me from behind. But the balls were usually stupid and direct, with less intelligence than the average internet user. The eggheads claimed that we should try to understand and to communicate with them, or with their lords in the damn sphere on the orbit between Earth and Moon, but me? When the alien invasion started, I used, out of panic and desperation, the only argument against it I had on me. 6mm BB on full auto. It worked out really well, so I'm sticking to it, unless some of the experimental gear the military-industrial complex is trying works much better. I fired a short burst from the hip. The EEG rumbled and provided power for a dozen small beats that hit the first alien ball, and caused it to burst with a revolting hiss and splatter on the ground. The second bluish ball, of course, continued its attack and rushed at me with unpleasant speed. And it was a big one, too, over 1 meter in diameter, but another short burst and it ended up dead, perforated by a handful of plastic projectiles. I heard footsteps behind me and looked over my shoulder. A cop with a shotgun in his hands was running towards me. "Hello, officer, I'll go, just popping up some IT balls." "There might be more," he objected. I didn't expect it, but I helped him check the area. Nothing. I took the brain pearls as proof of my kills and an excuse for why I was late to work again, and went to the office. All traces of the hangover had finally disappeared. The day was starting to look pretty good. And the afternoon turned out even better. The loud wail of sirens, for years used only once a month for tests with stupid announcements, the test of sirens, nothing is happening, announced an error rate. So all of us code monkeys pushed away our keyboards and grabbed out AAGs, gas BB guns, manual sniper rifles, and in some pathetic cases, stupid nerve guns, and went out into the streets to defend humanity. The raid was rather large, a few thousand balls dropping from the stratosphere onto our city, though only a tenth of them survived the barrage of flak. And since most of the windows in the city were occupied by someone with a gun, they got decimated again before they could reach the ground. It was like a stupid computer game I used to develop before science fiction became reality, except that there were no loud gunshots or laser beams, just the quiet firing of airsoft guns, occasionally accompanied by the explosion of a military or police grenade launcher. In 20 minutes, the latest attempt to kill all humans ended, with possibly only a handful of spheres hiding and hoping to assault some civilian later. The news was claiming that all of them had been stopped, but there were always some lost balls from raids like this, surviving sometimes for a few days before meeting their doom. We checked the garden next to the office complex and all the dark places where one of the survivors might be hiding, but we found only several deflated skins. The lunatic Iger sadly shook his minigun and said, "They never learn. They fly in and die." The scientists were constantly warning everyone who bothered to listen that the rulers of the invasion ship would, sooner or later, realize their tactics were not working and try a different way, or they would upgrade their invasion forces to resist our weapons. The next wave, they always said, would be immune, or they will start dropping bombs. I was afraid of that at the start, a year ago, but the balls seemed to be incapable of understanding that humans had wonder weapons. "They'll stop flying soon enough," Paul remarked. "Tomorrow 3 saucers from Baikonur are going for a nuclear strike to destroy the mothership." "And the fun will be over," I murmured regretfully. True, the invasion wasn't repelled as easily everywhere on Earth. The wild animals were suffering. Third world countries just didn't have enough weapons to stop the invaders, but for me, it was fun. The first ET encounter sucked. A lot of people died in those days. My friends and I were at a big battle in a former military exercise area when it happened, but we were the first who showed Earth how to respond. We lost only 2 guys in the first contact, while we were still confused and had no idea what the hell was happening. But as soon as I realized that the weird blue ball was killing my friend, I shot it reflexively with my toy airsoft gun, and it died. The balls were almost invincible to normal arms. Lead bullets, lasers, explosions, flamethrowers, none of them had the slightest effect. Metal projectiles just passed through without doing anything. The energy from lasers was absorbed, and the explosions had only minimal effect. But plastic, especially the expensive biodegradable stuff we had to use lately in our toy guns, was like a deadly poison to ETs. A few bats and bam, the bell burst and died. And so we went from mocked idiots and crazy fools playing soldiers to saviors of humanity.